Morning light filtered into the cozy Memphis kitchen as Eleanor Thompson, 63, measured flour into a ceramic bowl. Her hands, though slower now, moved with quiet precision, blending blueberries into whipped cream for a cake. She smiled, knowing her daughter Lila adored blueberry cake, a taste tied to lean summers filled with love. Eleanor arranged the cake layers to cool the soft hum of a wall clock keeping her company. She pictured Lila's warm laugh, her hug, and whispered, "Mom, you didn't forget." A simple linen tablecloth draped the dining table, adorned with a vase of daisies, yellow for Lila's childhood love of sunshine. Eleanor set out her cherished plates, saved since her husband George passed. She adjusted her sweater, tucked a gray strand behind her ear, and inhaled the scent of vanilla and nostalgia. By noon, Lila arrived with her husband Mark and their kids. Coats rustled, voices overlapped. "Surprise, Mom," Lila said, her tone flat.
Eleanor's heart flickered, but she steadied herself. "I made your favorite," she offered, gesturing to the cake. The kids wandered off, glued to their phones, while Mark lingered awkwardly by the door. Lila's eyes scanned the table, puzzled. "What's all this?" she asked, distant and cold. Eleanor Thompson stood frozen in her Memphis kitchen, the sting of Lila's words. "The best gift you could give me is to leave my life cutting deeper than she could have imagined." The blueberry cake sat untouched, its sweetness mocking the bitterness in the air. The house, once filled with laughter, now held a heavy silence, broken only by the steady tick of the wall clock. Eleanor's hands gripped the edge of a chair, her heart wobbling between shock and resolve. "I don't understand," she whispered, her voice small against the weight of rejection. Lila's response was cold, unyielding. "You never do, Mom. You hover, you meddle. I'm done." With that, Lila, Mark, and their children left, the door closing like a final note in a song Eleanor no longer recognized. That night, Eleanor sat alone, the dining table still set with daisies and untouched plates. She stared at the cake, its blueberries bleeding into the cream, and thought, "This cannot be my life." In the quiet, a spark of defiance flickered. She would not let her daughter's words define her. Sleepless, she lay under the hum of the ceiling fan, memories flooding in. She recalled working extra hours at the library to fund Lila's dance classes, selling her beloved violin, George's last gift, to pay for Lila's semester abroad. Every sacrifice had been a thread woven into her daughter's dreams, while Eleanor's own were tucked away, labeled later. Days later, a sharper betrayal emerged. While sorting laundry, Eleanor overheard Lila on the phone, her voice sharp. "She should just sign the house over to us. She's too old to manage it anyway." The words landed like a blow. Eleanor clutched the laundry basket, her breath catching. Too old. Sign the house over. As if her decades of love were just a transaction. That evening, she opened her old leather journal, its pages dusty but familiar. With a trembling hand, she wrote, "I've been erased in my own home. No more." The pen pressed hard, carving her resolve into the paper. The next morning, Eleanor sat at the kitchen table, a stack of unopened bills and bank statements before her. For months, she'd avoided them, too weary to face the numbers. But Lila's words had lit a fire. Slipping on her glasses, she poured black coffee and began to read. The truth emerged slowly, withdrawals she hadn't authorized, thousands drained in neat sums. Her chest tightened as she uncovered transfers labeled school fees and car repairs expenses she'd never approved. Lila. She whispered the name now, bitter. The clock's ticking grew louder, a countdown to action. Determined, Eleanor gathered the statements into a folder and walked to a law office on Union Avenue. The brick building with its brass sign reading "Sarah Mitchell, Attorney at Law," felt like a beacon. Inside Sarah, a calm woman in her 50s, listened as Eleanor explained, her voice steady despite the ache. "I think my daughter's been taking money. I don't want to believe it, but the numbers don't lie." Sarah nodded, her eyes kind but firm. "You're not overreacting, Eleanor. This is financial exploitation, and it's not uncommon in families. You have rights to your money, your home, your life." Sarah outlined steps: freeze the accounts, revise the will, protect the house. Eleanor's throat tightened. "Freeze my accounts." It felt like a betrayal to even consider it, but hadn't. Lila betrayed her first. As she left the office, the Memphis sun warmed her face, and the air carried a whisper of courage. Eleanor clutched the folder, her steps lighter. For the first time in years, she felt a trembling sense of power, not to hurt, but to reclaim what was hers. Eleanor Thompson sat in the law office of Sarah Mitchell, the Memphis sunlight filtering through tall windows, casting long shadows across the brick walls. The folder of bank statements lay open, each page a testament to Lila's betrayal, thousands of dollars siphoned from Eleanor's savings, marked as school fees or car repairs she'd never approved. Her hands trembled as she spoke, her voice steady but laced with pain. "I think my daughter's been taking money," she said. "I don't want to believe it, but the evidence is clear." Sarah, her attorney, leaned forward, her calm demeanor grounding the room. "You're not imagining this, Eleanor. Financial exploitation within families is real, and you have every right to protect yourself. We can freeze your accounts and secure your property." Eleanor's throat tightened at the thought. Freeze my accounts? It felt like a line she couldn't uncross, a fracture in the bond she'd spent decades nurturing. Yet Lila's words, "She's too old to manage it anyway," echoed a sharp reminder of her daughter's disregard. Sarah continued, her tone gentle but firm. "There's more. Your son-in-law, Mark, attempted to co-sign a loan in your name. The bank stopped it requiring your signature, but it shows intent." Eleanor's breath caught her heart pounding. Mark, too. The people she'd sacrificed for extra shifts at the library selling her violin were dismantling her life piece by piece. She left the office clutching her folder, the Memphis air thick with humidity, but alive with a new resolve. For the first time, she felt not just pain, but power. Back home, the house felt like a battlefield. The ticking wall clock, once a comfort, now marked the seconds until confrontation. That evening, Lila stormed in shopping bags, swinging her face flushed from a day out. The children's laughter drifted from the living room, oblivious to the tension. Eleanor stood at the kitchen counter, the kettle whistling softly, her folder of evidence neatly arranged. "Lila?" She called, her voice firmer than she expected. Lila barely glanced up, scrolling her phone. "Not now, Mom. I'm busy." "This can't wait," Eleanor said, sliding the bank statements across the table. "I've seen the withdrawals, thousands you took without asking. And Mark tried to use my name for a loan." Lila froze, her eyes narrowing, then she scoffed. "You're blowing this out of proportion. We needed the money, school, the car. You wouldn't get it." Eleanor's chest burned. "You didn't ask," she whispered, her voice shaking but resolute. "I sold my violin for your dreams, worked double shifts for your dance lessons. And you call me selfish." Lila's face hardened. "You're old Mom. You don't need all this money, this house. It's time you thought about us." The words struck like a slap, but Eleanor gripped the counter, her knuckles white. "I spent my life thinking about you," she said, her voice low but unyielding. "Now it's my turn." The children's laughter stopped abruptly, their screens dimming as they sensed the shift. Mark appeared in the doorway, his jaw tight, but he said nothing, his silence louder than words. The tension escalated over the next days. Lila's threats grew sharper. "If you push this, if you involve lawyers, you'll never see your grandchildren again," she hissed one evening, her voice cold as she leaned across the kitchen table. Eleanor poured tea, the steam rising like a fragile barrier between them. Her hand shook, but she met Lila's glare. "I hope it doesn't come to that," she said softly. "But I'm ready if it does." Lila's expression twisted into something unfamiliar, not just anger, but contempt. "You've changed," she spat. Eleanor's heart ached, but she replied, "No, I've found myself." The community turned against her. The phone rang relentlessly. Cousins, church friends, neighbors, all echoing Lila's narrative. "How could you do this to your daughter?" they demanded. Lila had spun a tale of a cruel, selfish mother, and they believed her. Eleanor sat at her kitchen table, her tea growing cold, each call chipping at her resolve. Yet she wrote in her journal that night, the pen digging into the paper, "I will not be erased. Not by her, not by anyone." 2 nights later, Mark knocked softly on her door. "Eleanor, can we talk?" he whispered. glancing down the hall to ensure Lila wasn't near. She let him in, her guard up. His face was lined with exhaustion, his voice low. Lila's been hiding things. The money wasn't just for school or the car. She has debts, gambling online games, trips to casinos. Eleanor's stomach twisted. Why tell me now, she asked. Mark rubbed his forehead, shame flickering. Because it's going to come out and I don't want you thinking I was in on it. He left quickly, leaving a heavy silence in his wake. Eleanor sat in her rocking chair, the weight of betrayal sinking deeper. Lila, the daughter she'd raised through sacrifices, was a stranger consumed by addiction. She wrote in her journal, "My daughter is lost to me." The words hurt, but they also steeled her. The next week, she returned to Sarah's office, her folder thicker with evidence, bank statements, Mark's confession, and a new discovery. A mortgage extension Lila had filed forging Eleanor's signature. Sarah's eyes narrowed. This is serious, Eleanor. It's not just theft, it's fraud. We can pursue criminal charges if you choose. Eleanor's hands trembled as she studied the forged signature, her name twisted into a lie. For years, she'd feared losing Lila's love. Now she realized she'd already lost her daughter to something darker. Let's protect my home first, she said, her voice steady. I've given enough. That night, Lila found the legal filings taped to the door. Her scream echoed through the house. What have you done? She demanded, storming into the kitchen. Eleanor stood calmly pouring tea. I took back what's mine, she said. Lila's face flushed with rage. This is my home too, she shouted. No, Eleanor cut in her voice like steel. This house was built by George and me. It was never yours to take, Mark appeared. His expression conflicted, but he accused her. You're tearing us apart. Eleanor turned to him, unflinching. No, you did that when you decided my life was yours to use. The room fell silent. The kettle's faint whistle the only sound. Lila's eyes burned with fury. You'll regret this, she hissed. Eleanor's heart pounded, but she stood firm. Maybe she said, but I'll have my dignity. The battle was far from over, but Eleanor knew she was no longer fighting just for her home. She was fighting for herself. The Memphis air was heavy with the scent of rain as Eleanor Thompson stood on her porch watching the taillights of Mark's truck fade down the street. Lila, Mark, and their children were gone, leaving behind a silence that felt both hollow and liberating. The sheriff's notice, still crumpled from Lila's furious grip, lay discarded by the door. Eleanor's hands trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of what she'd reclaimed, her home, her life. She stepped inside the house, no longer a cage, but a canvas for renewal. The faint trace of Lila's perfume lingered, but Eleanor flung open the windows, letting the fresh breeze sweep through, carrying away years of tension. In the days that followed, Eleanor began to reshape her space. She dragged her old rocking chair from the garage, its worn wood a comfort by the window. From a dusty closet, she retrieved the sunflower-patterned curtains she'd sewn with George, hanging them to soften the morning light. Vases bloomed with fresh flowers. Daisies, lavender, roses from the farmer's market filling the house with color and life. Each act was a quiet declaration, this is mine. Eleanor found her old sketchbook under the attic stairs, its pages yellowed but inviting. Sitting at the kitchen table, she sketched delicate flowers and faces, her pencil trembling at first, then growing steady. The act of drawing felt like reclaiming a piece of herself she'd long buried. One spring afternoon, Eleanor walked to the Memphis Community Center and signed up for an art class. The instructor, a warm woman named Rose, welcomed her with a smile. At first, Eleanor kept to herself, her strokes hesitant. But as weeks passed, her confidence grew and laughter soft surprising began to spill from her. I feel foolish drawing at my age, she admitted one evening. Nonsense, an older classmate replied. You're not foolish, you're free. Back home, Eleanor played George's favorite jazz records, the notes dancing through the house. She cooked simple meals, savoring sweet tea on the porch as the sun dipped below the magnolias. The loneliness lingered, but it felt like space, not a sentence. A letter arrived from her neighbor, Mrs. Carver Eleanor. Your courage inspires us. It's never too late to claim your life. Tears welled as she pressed the note to her chest, feeling seen for the first time in years. Then, one rainy evening, her phone lit up with Lila's name. Eleanor's heart jolted, but she answered. "Mom." Lila's voice cracked, raw and weary. "We're broke. The kids miss you." "I miss you. I shouldn't have said those things." Every instinct urged Eleanor to open her arms, but a stronger voice born from months of healing held firm. "I miss them too," she said softly. "But I can't let things go back to how they were. You need to build your own life." Silence followed, then a click as the line went dead. Eleanor sat in her rocking chair, tears streaming down her face, not just sorrow, but release. Days later, Mark appeared at her door, rain-soaked and weary. "I'm leaving Lila," he said quietly. "I can't watch her destroy herself or you. I should have spoken up sooner. I'm sorry." Eleanor studied his tired eyes, anger fading into pity. "Thank you for telling me," she said. "But you need to find your own path now, like I did." He nodded and walked back into the rain. Eleanor's world brightened. She tended her garden, planting lavender and daisies, the soil rich under her fingers. At the community center's spring art showcase, her drawings, roses, hands, faces brimming with emotion, hung proudly on the wall. A young woman paused, awestruck. "Did you make these?" she asked. "Yes," Eleanor replied, her voice warm with pride. Another letter from Mrs. Carver arrived. "Your garden is beautiful like you. You give hope to women like me." Eleanor sat by her window, the sunset painting the sky gold, and wrote in her journal, "I thought my worth was in what I gave away. Now I know it's in being. I'm here." The doorbell rang. 2 neighborhood girls stood with a basket of muffins. "These are for you, Mrs. Thompson," one chirped. "Mom says your garden inspires her." Eleanor knelt smiling through tears. "Tell her thank you," she said. As their laughter faded down the street, she stepped onto the porch, the breeze carrying the scent of roses. The house was alive again, and so was she. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If this story resonated with you or made you reflect, I'd love to hear your thoughts. So feel free to share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next story. I'll see you next time as we continue exploring more journeys and lessons together.